Tim Williams is from the Committee for Sydney. Tim, let's just start by thinking about leadership and governance and how you see all of those things coming together with the digital future.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Tim Williams, Chief Executive of the Committee for Sydney. I look at this digital universe. I've come to celebrate the digital disruption around us, but also to raise some questions about what I think of as metropolitan IQ, i.e. we need to bring these two things together. So I'm going to ask questions about the digital explosion, what it means for place, what it means for Sydney, what it means for businesses, what it means for communities. And I think I come at this with a kind of, I'm not a technological determinist. I think somebody once said about a sack, that a fact was like a sack. It wouldn't stand up unless you put something in it. And so I think the thing that needs to go into our technological explosion is a kind of commissioning intelligence as to what we in our cities want to do with this moment. So I'm going to talk about two things: celebrate the digital disruption, if you like, but also raise questions about what cities need to do and what other cities are doing. I speak as a Welshman, of course, but I speak as a frankly an Eve virgin who's become a bit of an evangelist, actually. And so the first bit will be celebration, but then I raise some questions. So I think we hear a lot about smart cities. Nobody wants to belong to a stupid city. It's quite interesting, right? So smart governance, I'm going to say, exclamation mark, is still needed. The commissioning intelligence, the looking at our business model transformation. What do we want to do with technology? I'm all for the ferment. I'm going to talk about it, but I also believe in supporting it. Cities that collaborate and support around this digital explosion are doing best internationally discussed. I'm also interested whether digitization and decentralization go together, or whether the traditional success of cities through agglomeration, through people, knowledge spin-overs, whether that still applies in the digital era. I think it does, and I think that's therefore a challenge for regional Australia. I think this does not damage the agglomeration benefits of cities. It reinforces it, arguably. So we hear a lot about this. Loads of, there's some smart cities, digital cities, intelligent communities, connected communities, even digital counties, actually, an American thing. So there's a bit of a consultancy frenzy around some of these terms. But I've done one myself, so I'm a total hypocrite. I've done lots of digital strategies. I did one for Coffs Harbour, which is, and I've also decided that Hume, the region of Hume, was a smart region. Of course it is, because nobody wants to be stupid, as I said. So I've done a few. And I'm going to say a bit about the role of the public sector, because this is part of my opening gambit as to what I think we should think about. Is, technological determinism on the one hand, but what's the reception committee in a city for this kind of innovation? And in Coffs Harbour, I decided that there were digital services the councils did. They could be an advocate for transformation. They could be entrepreneurs putting in fibre themselves. Their convener bringing together all the public services to look at how we might jointly procure business model transformation services to citizens. Area promoter, digital inclusion. I have a certain anxiety about the digital universe and who we leave behind in that. Open government, e-democracy for sure, okay? So we can also build smart places, but we don't, which is part of what I'm going to talk about at the end, because I think this metropolitan IQ is, and governance are pretty central to delivering the best results from this moment of digital disruption in a city. We can do it. There's a fantastic systemic way of looking at how we mix up all the utilities and the buildings and stuff. It's all, we know how to do these things. It's actually how we do this in complex cities. We ooze intelligence now in buildings, and we can do this all the time. The world of sensors responding very quickly to changes, energy, heating, water. Very, very brilliant stuff is happening in the world of buildings. But what about places? The places between the buildings, right? So some are getting there in terms of a kind of holistic commissioning of a clever place, and we know that the Koreans inevitably, in a very tiresome way, are being very intelligent about these matters. Transport's getting smarter. Yep. This is some slightly sinister IBM sort of listening to people's conversations about whether they're complaining about traffic and whether they like certain activities in a city in the US. So we've got all this technology. It's not the issue, I think. It's about how we commission this stuff, what we want to use it for, and how we gather the data and respond to it. How do we manage our cities on the basis of this kind of explosion, it seems to me. Even the French, for God's sake, have bringing 58 councils together on a common platform, looking at all the transport information, responding to it, managing their metropolis together, and responding to the data that is being generated in terms of policy shifts and stuff. It can be done. And the Canadians, blimey, so the game's over now, the Canadians have got there first. But, you know, they started listening in to people complaining, like on the M4, the equivalent, as it were. So, you know, the city is being deemed to be the new computer, and I'm saying I understand that, and I'm for it, but it takes more than a piece of rhetoric to get the best results from this, and it's not just a marketing slogan. We have to really understand what it means and what it can deliver, and how to do that. So the city is the platform, the network, the sensors, and the interface, all true, but I think it's not just automatic. I'm a big believer in this commissioning intelligence and governance behind some of this, not all of this. So all that, city becomes the platform, agreed, yes, of course. We're all going to become part of the interface, yes, I understand that, I totally back that. But listen, those four things, smart sociality, right? Smart transactions, understood that. Smart buildings, we talked a bit about. Smart mobility, we sort of understand. But at least two of those require serious metropolitan governance to deliver, it seems to me. So a lot of it happens without coming from below, very exciting, all for it, technical innovation, business innovation, consumer preferences are driving a lot of this stuff, peer-to-peer. A huge explosion, as we know, using the technology to do peer-to-peer, designing services and redesigning services. So very important stuff. And we know that there's a kind of demography, which I want to end with, because I think the demography that's shaping Sydney is being shaped around the knowledge economy and this demography in a way that, in a sense, Sydney doesn't quite understand and is not managing. And I want to end with that. So there's some very, very clever city governments around using this stuff. Have a look at Edmonton. Every one of those is a camera you can click on to see real-time film on roads to see what the congestion's like, all that kind of stuff. And so the collaboration that this technology enables, right, is the issue. And the cities that promote collaboration best achieve more. Martin Stewart Weeks and I are working on a paper for the Committee for Sydney called We the City, which is going to be published in a couple of weeks' time, and its subtitle is Collaborate to Compete. And I think collaboration is enabled by these technologies, but Sydney's got barriers to collaboration. It's fractured, so we need to think through this. So Singapore I've just come back from, and it's like, it makes you weep. You know, benign authoritarianism does have its fans, you know. The 5 million people can really engage around this transport agenda online, sharing a conversation. It's very interesting. So how smart are we? 9 councils on Parramatta Road. It makes you think, right? So this digital world of enablement and cohesion and collaboration and ferment and co-production, all true, but we've got some 19th century stuff to clear out of the way, it seems to me, as part of this discussion. Sydney's got 40, whatever it is, and Brisbane's got 1. That doesn't seem very clever in this sort of smart city universe we're talking about. This is a reason why we need to get ourselves sorted and clever in a conventional sense. Our model of Sydney is very difficult to manage in comparison with Melbourne, so smart urban management of the metropolis, not 40 separate districts, is what we need. We're not there. We're nowhere near it at this point in time. Just to give you a fact, because this is the knowledge economy exploding in Sydney, this very thing we're celebrating correctly today, only 3 council areas in the last 5 years created any jobs in Sydney, and they were all in the CBD, and they were not in Western Sydney at all, right? So there are virtually no jobs being created, and all these jobs are largely kind of in the kind of digital service world, leading to a very divided Sydney. This is very unclever, very unclever. The red is the poor people. It's a very divided city that needs proper urban metropolitan management. Discuss. And we are just about, and the restructuring of Sydney that's been going on the last 20 years is about the knowledge economy jobs going east, agglomerating in ever fewer places, and residential development going west, and the manufacturing economy declining. Sydney is not cleverly smartly managed in any sense at this point in time. And we lost a lot of GDP because of it. By the way, on current trends, because we're not smartly managing our city, Melbourne will overtake Sydney as #1 city in demography in about 2040. There's no discussion about this at all. So, like my summary is, in a sense, I think this incredible moment of digital explosion is real, but it must go with some business process re-engineering, if you like, of public services, SMEs, governance, because otherwise we'll miss some of the moment. And my joke to myself is the key question is not whether there's intelligent life on Mars, but whether there's intelligent life in Greater Sydney. The answer is yes, but we've got to really exploit this metropolitan IQ, it seems to me. That's a different way of looking at it. I want to end. I've mentioned some of Sydney's challenges, which I think, in a sense, ironically, the rise of the digital generation is reinforcing this division within our city. And we've got to use these clever technologies and coherence and coming together in a collaboration to overcome some of these problems. So we also need to ensure, anybody saw the Grattan Institute report, that this digital knowledge economy gets fed in terms of housing. We're not enabling young people to live in the walkable districts to these sort of digital centres that they wish to work in. That's a big issue around policy for Sydney. So bringing the city together, it's the challenge, we the city. But I want to end with what I think is a for those who are interested in the coming together of technology, knowledge economy, and places. And this place is a great example of what can happen going forward, is that we're in the era of the death of the ex-urban business park and universities on the edge. People from the generation that are comfortable with the technologies we're talking about want to live close in to these walkable, mixed-use innovation districts. And I think UTS is going to be well placed to be at the heart of an innovation district. And we know its bid is before government at the moment. But there's a very interesting demography at play, which I want to sort of end with. Cities compete not just on technology, they compete on governance, but they also compete for a demographic that has become key and is central to this digital explosion, which is the 25 to 34-year-olds, the talented 25 to 34-year-olds. What are they looking for in a city? And who is identifying what are they looking for in the city and making it happen for them? Our challenge in Sydney is we are intelligent enough to know all this stuff. How do we use this moment of new technology, new collaborations, to bring together our metropolitan IQ to solve some of our quite serious challenges? And I will end on that point. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tim.